What's going on, everyone? Dots Gaming here. Today, I'm bringing you guys a video covering the new patch notes that were put on the ESO forums, testing ideas for light and heavy attacks in combat. For those of you who don't know, this was a thread posted for a experimental idea that ZOS wants to do with light and heavy attacks in the Elder Scrolls Online. And I'm sure you could probably tell by the tone of my voice, not really the biggest fan of these changes. I'm going to try to keep it as constructive as possible so that the feedback can be taken seriously, but I do not like the changes at all, and I don't like their reasoning, especially. The reasoning is the biggest issue that I have with why they would like to make these changes. But I'm going to just go over this post with you guys, give you my thoughts throughout, and then I would like to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What do you guys think about these changes once we go over these? So this was from Gina on the forums. While our main focus and priority continues to be improving performance and addressing the current issues on the live mega servers, and there are a lot of them, we also have been carving out some time to consider ways that we can continue improving the game as it evolves and matures to ensure a healthy community and environment. Today, we'd like to share one of the topics we've been discussing internally, including what problems we'd like to solve, propose solutions, and give you a chance to try out some ideas and give your feedback. Combat in ESO is one of the things that truly separates our game from others like it. It's action-oriented, fast-paced, keep that in mind, and keeps you and gives you a lot of freedom over its various mechanics and interactions. It's balanced not with ability cooldowns, but with ability costs and resource pools. You can't keep casting abilities or block and dodge roll without the proper resources to fuel those actions. We have found that players love this freedom, and that there's always a button to press or action to take at any point in combat. There are, however, several drawbacks to this model as well. Here is where I have issue with this post. This. First, it tends to reward players for pushing buttons as quickly and efficiently as possible. As it should. If somebody plays a game as good and efficiently as possible, they should be rewarded for that. Players with high APM, actions per minute, significantly outperform those with low APM, as they have better uptime on abilities, higher mitigation, much higher DPS, and can simply move around the battlefield better in both PvE and PvP. While we believe that there is good to have a skill gap that promotes mastery, we also believe that the gap as it currently exists is too wide, and many players aren't finding satisfaction in the climb. Additionally, we believe that the over-reliance on specific mechanics such as light attack weaving leaves less room for playstyle diversity, including lower APM options. So basically with this, they're saying that you are being rewarded too much for being good at the game, and that people that aren't as good in the game should be rewarded more. And I don't understand this line of thinking at all. There have already been certain things that they've introduced into the game recently that have already closed the skill gap between the floor and the ceiling. Cast times on ultimates, the changes to block and block canceling, and now they're adding this. And I don't understand why. And the part that frustrates me about this whole post is it is clear that this was a time was spent on this, right? There was time that people spent drafting these changes, putting them on the forums, putting this into the PTS. And this is time that could have been spent fixing a lot of the issues that are just crippling the game right now. I'm not even just talking performance-wise, but just with a lot of the way that the standardization has kind of happened over time, and how some abilities are they were just left behind, and just certain, the skills are just so weak now, and other things are still too strong. Like, instead of working on that balancing and fixing up the standards that already exist from the whiplash changes that we saw in Scalebreaker and Dragonhold, we are now whipping back in the other direction and making huge nuclear changes to the game. And I just don't understand why. And I am truly at a loss for words with why time was spent on this right now, at this current moment in time, and not other things. Like, yeah, maybe later, once we have some other things worked out, other things fixed up, if you want to spend time on this and you really think this is something that needs to be worked on, go ahead. But right now, at the current state that the game is in, this is not what needs to be worked on at all. This is particularly evident in veteran content and PvP. Finally, the concept of using light attacks for damage and heavy attacks for restore is quite simply unintuitive. especially for less experienced players. Now, look, I can understand them saying that light attacks dealing a load of damage and heavy attacks dealing not a lot of damage. I agree that that's a little bit unintuitive. I can absolutely agree with that. But you're going to see with the way the numbers look, it is as crazy as you think it's going to be. I just really wish that they almost just kept the system the way it was. But if you feel that heavy attack builds are not as viable as they used to be, you nerf light attack damage a little bit and you buff heavy attack damage a little bit. You're going to see with these numbers that is just not what they do. That's just not what they do. We've been discussing ways to address these issues, and we'd like your feedback on some changes to both light and heavy attacks on the PTS during the special off-cycle testing period. These changes are focused on light and heavy attack damage and resource restoring capabilities. In summary, the changes are as follows. Light attacks will now restore resources, and resource restore is removed from heavy attacks. Now, successive light attacks will grant a stacking resource buff up to 3 consecutive attacks, maxing out the benefit without weaving abilities. So those light attack spammers are now going to get benefit from light attack spamming. Light attack damage is reduced and heavy attack damage is increased. Non-fully charged heavy attacks, also known as medium weaves, have a scaling amount of damage based on how long you hold the attack. Now, this I like. This I don't mind. I don't mind that medium attacks will do more damage based on how long you hold them, and heavy attacks will deal the most, the biggest amount of damage. Logically, that does make sense. It's just, again, the percentages that were put in to make this happen just don't make sense. I'm not sure how I feel about the light attack resource restore. Personally, I don't like it. I would prefer the older model with just light attacks dealing the damage and generating ultimate, medium weave being stronger based off of how much damage you deal, and the heavy attack being the biggest amount of damage because it takes the most time to charge up, but also giving you the resource restoration so that there is room for both light and heavy attack rotations. But as you're going to be able to see, light attack rotations are just not going to be great. They're not going to be that good. I don't know. Maybe they will be. Just at least from what I've been able to tell, the numbers are really bad. I don't know. Maybe I got to test more. All types of attacks now interact with off balance. Light attacking an off balance target will result in even more resource return. Medium attack will deal more damage, and heavy attack will deal more damage and stun. So you can no longer medium weave to stun. You must do a full heavy weave to stun. We believe these changes will broaden the usage of light, medium, and heavy attacks for all players, and this new dynamic heavy attack builds will be more viable, giving low APM players an opportunity to compete in both PvE and PvP. High APM play is still rewarded with the absolute highest DPS and requires both a mixture of light and heavy attacks interacting with off balance as optimally as possible. We realize these are big changes, and we're excited to have this off-cycle test where you can provide feedback. We'd like to emphasize the possibility that these changes never actually go into the game. I pray that it is that way. We are simply testing and gathering feedback. The current PTS build you'll be playing on is Update 25 with the addition of these new changes. We will give everyone clear before and after environment between live and PTS to allow better comparisons. We will hope that you jump in to test these changes and provide feedback. Here are the patch notes. Light and heavy attacks have received multiple adjustments to help reduce the importance of executing them perfectly. As well as help each attack tailor themselves to the gameplay they incur. Like, I just don't get it. For example, light attacks will focus less on damage but restore resources and help fulfill their fast nature, meant to assist in builds that want to chain a constant barrage of attacks. Heavy attacks will focus on pure damage that are made for slower builds dedicated to the act of pushing out larger numbers. General. All light, medium, and heavy attacks will now scale with your highest offensive stat, as they should. Oh, wait a minute. That just clicked for me. I didn't notice this the first time I read this. All light, medium, and heavy attacks will now scale with your highest offensive stat. So that means you're a Magicka user with a sword and board, light attacks will scale with your highest offensive stat. That's pretty interesting. I like that change regardless of the rest of these changes. Huh. That actually, I didn't notice that the first time. All weapon-based light attacks will restore 200 stamina or magicka per hit, depending on their type. Martial weapons, bow, dual-wield, two-handed, unarmed, one-handed shield will return stamina, while magical weapons, staves, will return magicka. Werewolf light attacks will restore 250 stamina at a base. Using a light attack in quick succession will increase the resources restored by its base value up to a maximum of 3 times. This means normal weapons, light attacks, restore up to 1,000, while werewolf will restore 1,250. Heavy attacks no longer restore any resources. We have decreased the damage of light attacks by approximately 78% and streamlined their cooldowns to have less variance between weapon types. That is right. Light attacks will only be dealing 22% of the damage that they currently deal. And for some comparison, I was on the PTS. My light attacks were non-crit, dealing about 800 damage. 800 damage. It is that low. And yeah, it's really unfortunate. Because my non-crit attacks for heavy attacks dealt about 10 times more damage. So you're going to see too with the way that they buff heavy attacks, it's like the whole process behind this, right, was the whole lower the ceiling, raise the floor, right? But you're going to see that with the way that heavy attacks are being buffed and how much more damage they're going to deal, heavy attacking an off-balance target is going to hit hard as shit. So you're going to bring back a lot of those just from stealth, off-balance, heavy attack burst builds that are going to deal an insane amount of damage to a new player, which is what this is supposedly supposed to fix, right? Making new players, making it easier for them. And they're just going to get hard bursted by big heavy attack damage. I don't know. Partially charged heavy attacks, also called medium attacks, are now going to start scaling at the same damage as light attacks and scale up to a maximum for their respective CP to ensure they always deal more damage than a light attack, but never more than a fully charged heavy attack. Heavy attacks will now do varying amount of damage based on their cast times. They're also built to deal approximately 10% more DPS when weaving them in with abilities compared to light attack weaving. So the heavy attacks are now designed to deal 10% more damage when compared to light attack weaving. So they are now built to deal approximately 10% more DPS. So I'm confused because they said earlier light attack weaving was supposed to be the best, but now heavy attack, based on the cast time, are always built to deal 10% more DPS when weaving with abilities compared to light attack weaving. So heavy attack weaving will factually deal more DPS, but it's not going to restore the resources. So, but while you're heavy attacking, your regen will still be kicking in, you know? So again, this is clearly going to be something that needs to be tested. I don't like messing with just this core mechanic. I mean, I'm sure you can tell how frustrated I am. I can't even really think straight. It's just, anyway, I'm sorry, guys. I'm just a little frustrated right now. Dual wield heavy attacks now deal approximately 31% more damage. Bow heavy attacks now deal 12% more damage. Reduce their cast time by 550 milliseconds. Bow heavy attacks also no longer reduce your movement speed. One-handed shield heavy attacks now deal 24% more damage. Reduce their cast times by 150 milliseconds. Two-handed heavy attacks now deal 62% more damage. Reworked restoration heavies have 2 ticks of a channel and a final hit of damage to denote the fully charged state. First 2 ticks of damage are untouched. The final tick deals 238% more damage, and we remove the 200 millisecond delay on the attack. And your movement speed is no longer reduced while channeling. The final hit of damage can also be dodged. Unarmed heavy attacks deal 24% more damage. Werewolf heavy attacks deal 62% more damage. Volendrung's heavy attacks would deal 22.7% more damage. Medium attacks will scale. Inferno and Frost Stabs will deal 12% more damage, reduce cast time by 300 milliseconds. They no longer reduce movement speed while casting. Lightning heavy attacks will deal 34% more damage on the channel portion, but 190% on the final delay on the final attack. 200 millisecond delay has been removed. Your movement speed no longer reduced while channeling. Final hit can be dodged, and the bonus damage versus off-balance enemies now deals 33% more damage for any heavy attack, partial or fully charged, down from 70% only for the fully charged heavy attack. Partially charged heavies will no longer stun off-balance enemies, but fully charged attacks continue to do so. Light attacking off-balance enemies adds 5 stacks to your restore, bypassing the natural 4 cap. This means light attacking an off-balance enemy restores 1,200 resources immediately and goes up to 2,000 if you spam light attacks. That's what this is basically saying. Mend Wounds has been intentionally untouched for the time being, as well as Overload. Many items, sets, passives, and skills have received adjustments in order to keep their power levels the same after changes to light heavy attacks. Most of these will be number adjustments, but some have received larger designs to fit their shift in light heavy attacks. It's just really unfortunate to see that we're going to reward factually reward this line right here. Slower paced playstyles will be 10% better than faster paced playstyles in terms of those DPS numbers. Now, again, we have to kind of see how the numbers shake out with the amount of resources you're going to be restoring from light attacks versus now how much more damage you can budget for versus heavy attacking. You know that those don't restore resources, but your regen will still be ticking during that time. So there's a lot that needs to be tested. But again, it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. This is such a huge change to the game. Like, this is a core function. And there's still so much left over from Dragonhold that needs to be fixed from the initial pass. I just don't see why this is the thing to do now. I don't know. To me, there's just other stuff that deserved the time. Especially when the goal of this is to literally reduce the skill ceiling. You know, I'm sorry, guys. I know I sound incredibly frustrated, and it's because I am, but I'm just trying to be as objective as I can. Empower. This type of this buff type now increases the damage of your next fully charged heavy attack by 2,500 rather than increasing light attack damage by 40%. Aegis of Gallantway now grants a power to 12 allies rather than 3. No longer has a 50% chance to proc. Cooldown has been reduced to 2 seconds up from 1. Blood Moon increases the damage of your light attacks by 57.38 as opposed to 55%. I guess it's to make them viable. Increase the duration to 10 seconds up from 5. Cooldown to 20 seconds up from 15. While active, this set reduces the amount of resources that they're restored by 50%. I guess to make up for the fact that they'll actually deal damage now. Kvatch Gladiator, this set now increases your weapon damage against targets under 25% health by 1475 rather than increasing your weapon damage light and heavy attacks by 25%. This change I hate. Molag Kina. This set now grants Conductor, which reduces the cost of your abilities by 20% while active, but reduces your weapon damage by 511 rather than granting Overkill, which increased the cost of your abilities by 8%, but increased your weapon as well damage by 516. This proc condition still remains using 2 light attacks in a row, which are now used to generate resources, so the identity set has flipped to accommodate that playstyle. The reason for the large swing in the situation is because the ratios are not 1-to-1. Cost increase is additive with your overall cost, while cost decrease is multiplicative. This means that decreasing your costs is far less effective than increasing them, resulting in a larger weight required when giving one or the other. To me, I just don't like this new set. The old one, right, to me, and now this is just first impressions. This whole video is first impressions. We could play the PTS and see how things are, and I could be totally wrong. But this is just my first impressions of a lot of these changes. And this one, right, I feel like with Molag Kina, it had a good identity, right? I will have worse sustain, but deal more damage. It is like the monster set version of New Moon Alkalite, which is good. It is a Kiss Curse. You're going to get the damage, but your skills are going to cost more. But now, the Kiss Curse is, yeah, your abilities are going to be cheaper, but that is so much damage to lose. 511 damage? That's so much. That's so much. And it's a shame because I feel like Kina was just finally in a really good place, you know? And it had a good identity where it's like, man, you know, it's going to cost a lot, but I'm going to deal a lot of damage, you know? And now it's, okay, I could spam more skills, but they're going to be weaker, you know? And you're already limited by a GCD anyway. So, you know what I'm saying? And while you're going to be, let's say, weaving in heavy attacks, you know, your recovery will still be ticking. I don't like this new set. I don't. I just don't like it. I just don't like it. Queen's Elegance. The set now causes your light and heavy attacks to reduce the health, magic, and stamina cost of your abilities used by 10%. Your fully charged heavy attacks to increase the damage of your next direct damage attack by 2610, rather than increasing the damage of your light and heavy attacks by 20%. That's interesting. See, like, that's actually, like, an interesting set. That's not bad. Archmage. This set now increases your magic recovery by 369 for 10 seconds after dealing damage with a fully charged heavy attack, rather than granting 834 magicka. I like that. Ulfnor's Favor. This set now increases the magic or stamina you generate when light attacking by 120, rather than increasing the magic or stamina you generate from fully charged heavy attacks. Makes sense, I guess, with their new changes. Molten Armaments is going to give you 3,000 more damage on your heavies as opposed to increasing the by a percent. Bound Armaments' ability no longer increases the damage of your light attacks while slotted, so that's just gone. Forceful was cut in half. Trifocus was cut in half. Cycle of Life from the Restoration staff. This passive now causes your light and heavy attacks to restore percentages of your missing magicka rather than a certain percentage more magicka. So, again, I guess plays into the new theme of what they want to do. Revitalize this passive now causes your fully charged heavy attacks to restore up to 6 or 12% of damage done as magic or stamina based on the weapon type used. This effect has a cap of 300 or 600 resources to restore. The Werewolf Pursuit now grants an additional damage per light attack rather than increasing the heavy attack restore, this is still, I guess, okay, this is resource restore. Champion Points to Lover Tenacity is just going to increase the amount of magic and stamina restored by those light attacks, rather than increasing the amount of magic and stamina restored by the fully charged heavy attack. And that's it. That's the proposed changes. Yeah, so I'm really sorry that this is the tone that I have while making this video. I don't like to make videos when I'm not in a good mood. I don't like to make videos when I'm upset or pissed off. But unfortunately, I don't see a situation where I sit down and make this video and I'm like in a good mood, if that makes sense. It's just speaking personally, I obviously can't speak for everybody else, but for me, Dragonhold and Scalebreaker was one of the most exhausting 6 months of being an ESO player ever. And when Harrowstorm was released, I was actually like relieved to not see any Whiplash changes, Sledgehammer changes come to the game. And yeah, performance is crap right now. We all know it. We don't have to talk about it. But at least on the balance side of things, it was just like a nice little pause, you know? And this just feels like it's like war flashbacks to the end of 2019, where we are getting these dramatic changes, a huge upheaval and overhaul to the game, and there's just so much changing. And we all still have to remember that, yeah, they could implement the system, sure. What's going to happen when they remove CP? What's going to happen when that system gets changed, huh? You know? How is all of these things that we've been implementing over the last year, how is that going to interact with that new system, you know? It's just, to me, it comes down to priority. You know, me personally, it kind of just comes down to priorities. And to me, this could not have been any lower on the priority list, you know? Right now is really, with everything that's going on in the game right now, is lowering the skill ceiling really at our highest priority. You know, not fixing the abysmal dot damage, not fixing the tank meta, which, by the way, this is going to, I feel like, make consistent damage worse, just even more terrible, and it's going to reward really big heavy attack bursts, since they're buffing the crap out of heavy attacks, you know, and those are still going to deal the most damage with off balance. You know, I was watching someone else's video and they said that it's, you know, basically heavy attacks now are going to be what old D-Swing was against off balance targets, you know? And I don't know why this was the priority. And I'm sorry, like I said, I really do apologize that this is the tone of the video, but it's how I feel. Again, I could be wrong. I could turn around in 2 weeks and be like, you know, this video was a mistake and the changes were actually good. But my initial impressions are very bad. And I really pray that this does not get implemented into the game and that they really, really look at what's currently in the game and work on those problems, because this is not going to solve those issues. At least I don't think. It's just going to make things worse, and it's going to make everybody have to change their builds all over again. And I'm just feeling fatigued, man. I'm feeling fatigued. But let me know what you guys think. You know, what do you guys think? Do you think these are good changes? Do you think these are bad changes? How do you think this is going to affect PvE, PvP? Let me know what you guys think. I personally think that, you know, as far as I know, most people don't enjoy heavy attack rotation. Some do, but I feel like a lot don't. And, you know, it's based on what this reads. It sounds like heavy attacks are going to be the way to go. For like primary DPS, so basically low APM. And with PvP, your light attack weaving into a skill is gonna be way weaker. You know, your light attacks, like I said, deal like 800 non-crit damage on like a typical build. That was on one of my Magni kit build. My light attacks were dealing like 900 non-crit damage. And so now for optimal damage, you're gonna have to go heavy attack into a skill, which again just slows combat down. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Interested to hear what you guys think. Appreciate you guys stopping by and listening to me kind of talk about all this stuff. And yeah, appreciate you stopping by and listening to me. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you all soon.